So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down step by step the ad creative process that we used to scale one of our clients to $223,000 per month in new customer revenue on Shopify. So without further ado, let's dive in. And before we jump over to my screen, just wanted to show you guys the TripleL Dashboard. You can see new customer revenue right here and the date up here last month. I'll just do a quick refresh so you can see that this is in fact mine. So just refresh right here, and yeah, there you can see it. Okay, so let's first start with the process behind our ad creative. So it's going to zoom into this diagram here, and this is what the visual of the process looks like, right? So we have research, angles, creatives, test, data, iterate, and then back to producing creatives or back to our angles, right? And it's important to understand what our goal is here, right? Our goal is to increase the win ratio of ad creatives that we produce and test. And what the win ratio is it's the percentage of creatives that you need to test to find one winning ad creative you can scale. Now, to give you an example, if you have to test 4 creatives to find one winner, you'll have a 25% win ratio, okay? So this is a snapshot of the process. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into each one of these categories and explain the full process end to end. So this all starts with research, right? And as boring as it sounds, research is crucial to finding winning ad creatives and also being able to get a better win ratio. So what research is basically just understanding and getting a better view on what ad creatives we should be producing, right? And I'm going to take you through the process that I use at my company to do this research for our clients and find winning ad creatives. So the first thing is you want to visualize all of this research, because if you have it in a Google Doc or just any sort of document, it's going to get very messy. What you want is a visual board so that you can come back later and look at it and it's very clear and well organized. So we use Milano, and I'll show you an example of this in just a moment. But really, you want to gather the following information, right? You want to gather information about your brand principles, your key phrases, your values, your unique value propositions. Then you want to talk about your customer avatars, right? So you actually want to build profiles of your customer types, and you want to go as detailed as possible on their interests, their values, their frustrations, their beliefs, what they look for in your product, what they think about at night, their goals, their aspirations. The better you can understand this person and this avatar, the more effective your advertising will be, because you're going to be able to talk to them much more effectively than most or all of your competitors, okay? Then you want to understand how you're going to advertise to those avatars. So just understanding what stage of awareness the avatar is at, what life force 8 desires we'll use, what are the key messages that will stop the scroll, and we'll go through this in a moment. And then finally, competitor analysis. So you want to include your competitor website, their ad library, the analysis of their ads, what messaging they're using, what avatar they're likely targeting, what's working for them. This is crucial data to understanding, what is actually working, what may not be working, to shape the creatives that you're going to produce. Okay. So before we dive into this point 3, I'm going to show you an example of a board that we built for a client, and you can just see like the level of detail, and this is just a starting point. The whole idea is that once you build out the board, you continue to add and refine and change and improve things, because ultimately the more data you gather from your creative tests, and as time goes on, the more you learn about your customer, the more information you'll be able to add to this board, and the more accurate the information will be. So it's not always about just like a ton of information, it's about the quality of the information as well. So zooming into this board here, you can see that we start with outlining the brand, right? The background of the brand. What does the brand stand for? Why should someone purchase from that brand in the first place? Then the marketing style, right? The whole tone of marketing and how we want to sound in our ad creative and our copy. And then here we have these 3 customer personas, right? So we actually give them names, and we go deep into who that person is and their background and their beliefs and their values and their problems and their ideal solutions. And you can see that for all three of these here, we've given them like a catchphrase. We've identified the age range. We've wrote this whole paragraph here about all the things that I mentioned above. And then from there, once we understand them, we then want to understand what appeals to them most from each of our products, right? So for this brand, we're advertising multiple products. If you're focusing on one product, it's much more straightforward. But ultimately, you want to take this information and say, okay, like, what will John find most interesting from this product, right? What will the features of this product that he values the most be? That's important to understand how to advertise and communicate with that person. So those are the avatars. And then we go a little bit deeper into our customer pain points and the activities that the product is used for. Just understanding more about why are people using our product, right? And what are they using it for? And we also want to understand what other products they've used to fix the pain points, because that's ultimately who we're competing against. And if they've tried something that has worked or hasn't worked, then especially if it hasn't worked, we can use that in our advertising to create a us versus them against that solution, okay? Then you go into your target customer desires. Like, what does our customer desire just on like a psychological level? And how does our brand solve the pain points and fulfill the desires, right? So just connecting the pain points and desires to our product, right? And how that actually fulfills them. Then we have a competitor analysis. So you can see here we have like the websites, we have some information about the competitors, we have the ad library, we have information about their creatives, and we have some examples here. So that's the board we build out. And a step further is looking more at like your customer reviews, okay? So a lot of like just zooming back out and understanding like how do we actually find this information. A lot of it is found through customer reviews, both on your own website, but also on your competitor websites and on Amazon. And what we like to do is we like to export our own reviews, upload them to ChatGPT, and find the common words and phrases that are within those reviews, okay? Other ways, customer surveys, your own surveys, post-purchase, general surveys that you're sending out through email, forums, Reddit, Quora, and keyword searches on TikTok. So that is the basis of the research. Moving into the second area is DR principles. DR stands for direct response, and core angles. So as a continuation of your research, the next step is to identify how you can link your research and your customer avatars to direct response principles that will make your advertising more effective. So what is direct response? So what does that mean? Direct response is a form of advertising that compels the reader to take an action, right? In our case, it's a click on the ad, which will lead to our website or landing page, right? You want to invoke an action in a reader or a viewer. Now, I'm going to focus in on a topic around direct response principles that is called the Life Force 8. And the Life Force 8 are 8 core human desires that are hardwired into our brains, right? Why is this important? Because when you build your advertising around human psychology and human behavior, it becomes much, much more effective, okay? So you're not just like making stuff up, building random ads. You're actually building it off the basis of human psychology, right? Why people do things, like all of the basis of why people do things, and why they take certain actions is what you're building your advertising on, all right? So let's just go through the Life Force 8. So the first one we have is survival, enjoyment of life, life extension. We have enjoyment of food and beverages. We have freedom from fear, pain, and danger. We have sexual companionship. We have comfortable living conditions. We have to be superior, winning, and keeping up with the Joneses. We have care and protection of loved ones and social approval, right? You can find a lot more information about each of these and exactly what they are online. For this video, I just wanted to show you what these are. And ultimately what you have to do with these 8 is you have to link your product and your problem solution to just a few of the Life Force 8. Don't use all 8. It's very, very, very unlikely that your solution is going to appeal to all 8 of the life force 8. Usually it's 3, maybe 4, and really the more you can focus on one, the better, right? Because your message is going to be more potent. So now that you have identified your life force 8 core human desires in your research board, now comes to identifying the angles that you'll be using for your ad creatives. And what an angle is just the core pillar of your ad creative. Think of it as the overarching theme that you're going to use in your creative. So just to give you an example of some angles, let's say there's a skincare brand selling a face mask. They may use the following angles. So the first one could be reduce hyperpigmentation. That appeals to a specific subsegment of the audience. And the life force 8 that they'll be appealing to with that angle is sexual companionship. People want to look a certain way for others. Another one is social approval, right? They want to have the approval from their peers and others in terms of the way they look, and also the enjoyment of life, right? It gives them more confidence, etc., etc. Another angle that they could use is reversing aging, and this is again appealing to a different audience segment, and the life force 8 is very similar, right, to reducing hyperpigmentation. Another one is preventing acne breakouts, and again, life force 8 very similar there. So as you can see, there's different overarching themes that you would then use and go deep on with your ad creatives. So in order to find your core angles, first of all, you want to start with the pain points and the problems that are most prominent from your research, right? What are you seeing as common themes that are coming up from your existing customers, from your competitors, from things that you're seeing online, on forums, on TikTok, just from your research, right? Then you want to think of what separates your solution or your product from your competitors. How is your product different and better than what your customer avatars tried before, right? Because that's going to help you speak to them in a certain way that's going to convince them to try your product. And angles can be different for different customer avatars. So as a general rule, you should start with 3 core angles, just so that you don't have a ton of things to test with at the beginning. So just find the 3 core ones, the main ones that you think would work the best. And once you have your angles, you then want to identify the life force 8 that are present within the angle, okay? So just like we did here, just identifying which of the life force 8 are, within that same angle. So moving on to creative production. So you have your research, you've identified your angles, and you've linked your angles to the life force 8. Now you're ready to start building ad creatives. So images are effective, and I would recommend you 100% test and run images. But for this section, we'll focus on videos and UGC videos specifically, just to talk about that process. So how do you create your UGC videos? Step 1 is you want to find someone to record videos for you, right? This can be you, a friend or a family member, if they're good in front of camera, if you want to keep your costs low. And what we do is we work with content creators, right? So we find content creators. If you also want to find content creators who can film content for you, use backstage.com, go there, post a job, you'll get applications, hire someone with UGC video examples in their portfolio, and they must have an understanding of getting and holding attention. They must have good lighting. They must have a good mix of A-roll and B-roll in their examples, and you want to pay maximum $150 per video, okay? Step 2 is you want to fit the angle that you identified into a creative framework. Now, what is a framework? A framework is a structure of the video, right? And you need structure to help make sure that your creative is direct response. Otherwise, you can go off on tangents, you can create a creative that doesn't really have much structure to it, and this is really just keeping you on track to your outcome. Frameworks are made up of individual modules. Each module is a scene within the video, as we're going to see, with some examples right here. So, this one right here, as you can see, starts with a hook. We usually have 2 hooks just because we want to test different hooks, but it doesn't mean that each hook follows each other. Each video has 1 hook when it's made. Then we talk about the benefit of the product. We talk about the before, like what the customer was facing before. We intro the product. We talk about the unique mechanism of the product demo, so we show how it works, the features of the product, social proof, and we finish with CTA. Here's another one. So starting with a hook, going into the problem, then the agitation, then solution, the classic PAS formula. Then we talk about the benefit, usually the main benefit of the product. You can include multiple benefits here, and then a CTA. This one has a hook, it has education, it has problem agitation, product introduction, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, end result before, and end result. So really you can copy one of these frameworks, but ultimately you just need some sort of structure that makes sense, right? So that there's a sequence to your videos. Then step 3 is writing and scripting the brief for the content creator. So you have your framework. Now you write a script that fits into the framework, right? Keeping in mind the LFA that you've chosen to focus on, following a specific sequence. And you can either write word for word or give your creator pointers on what to say. It really depends on how good they are and how much they understand direct response principles. And you want to make sure your creator knows what human desires you're trying to appeal to as well. And that is because they will then be able to deliver the content with that in mind, once they have that context. And alongside the script is really the words, the talking head part of the video, what the creator is going to say to the camera. But we also ask our creators for B-roll, and B-roll is footage of them using the product, them experiencing the problem that we're talking about, showing a visual of that, unboxing the product, and you'll see how this plays in with editing. So once you've received your content back and you've approved it, looks good, now it's time to edit that into a video. So you want to look at other competitors on the Facebook ad library to get inspiration of the editing style that you should be using. And just some general rules that we like to follow is we like to change the scene every 2 to 4 seconds, right? So there's always a change, right? And if you're targeting a younger audience, you want faster changes, more like the 1.5, 2 seconds. And if you have an older audience, you want to have slower changes, more on the 3, 3.5, 4 seconds. You want to use native style captions that look organic to the platform you're running the ad on, and you want to use a good mix of A-roll and B-roll. So it just means that you're changing the visual, and it's not always someone talking to a camera. You're also showing, at one point they're talking to a camera, another point they're, experiencing the problem, another one they're unboxing the product, they're using the product, they're showing the product in a certain way. So it just adds a lot of dynamic to the video, all right? So now comes creative testing. So now that your creative is ready, it's time to launch it on the ad platform that you're using. So how we test. We like to split ad creative angles into their own ad sets, and each ad set has 3 to 4 creatives, either with different hooks or slightly different structure to the video. And an optional is to set minimum spend limits on each ad set to ensure each one gets enough spend during the test. Because usually Meta will allocate budget to a specific ad set, and then the other ones won't get enough spend. And you want to spend to roughly 2x your target CPA before determining if the test is a winner or not. So when you've tested your ad creative, and while it's being tested, there are some metrics that you want to look at. So the most important one is your CPA over ROAS, right? Is it on target? And if that is or is not the case, you still want to look at other metrics because you want to understand if it's working, why? If it's not working, why? So you want to look at your outbound CTR. And this is a measure of the percentage of viewers clicking on your ad to visit your website or landing page. And after that, you want to also look at creative specific metrics. So 2 of those here are hook rate, which is how good your video is at stopping the scroll and hooking viewers in. You want to aim for at least 30% here. And hold rate is how good your video is at retaining viewers after you've hooked them in. You want to aim for about 10% here. Usually anywhere around 10%, even if it's like 7, 8, is still pretty good. So if your creative does not work, you want to understand why. So maybe it's your hook rate is poor and you're not getting enough people to watch. So you want to change the hook and test different hooks. Maybe your hook rate is strong, but the hold rate is poor and you can't retain viewers. Then you want to actually look at the structure of the video and make sure that the scenes are changing every 2 to 4 seconds, that there's dynamic, that it's actually interesting to watch. Sit down and watch your videos and ask yourself, is this interesting? Is it boring? And change accordingly. If your CTR is poor, maybe the message is not hitting with the audience. Maybe there's not enough direct response principles using the ad creative. Maybe there's a lack of credibility, social proof, or the CTA is weak. Based on this, you want to then add and change. If your in-platform metrics are strong, but the ROAS or CPA is still off target, it may be an issue with the conversion rate or AOV on your website landing page. So it's not always a creative issue. You want to look at the other metrics in the funnel and understand, okay, if we're getting very strong creative metrics, why are we still not getting the performance that we need, right? And then it's about looking at other areas. So based on this data, you can now create iterations of the ad creative to get closer to a winner. And as I mentioned, our goal is to use the data to improve the ad creative and our message, rather than just discarding creatives if it doesn't perform well, never using them again. Is actually, no, we spent money to get the creative and to test it. Let's make sure that we use the learnings to inform future creatives so that we can improve. And you really want to think of this as a feedback loop to increase your win ratio, as I mentioned, right? That's the ultimate goal. The win ratio is, again, how many creatives do you need to test to find one true winner that you can scale? The more effective you can become at this, the faster you'll be able to find winners, the faster you'll be able to scale your ad spend, the more cost effective you will be at producing ad creatives. And if you test the same angle with multiple creative frameworks, different hooks, etc., and it still doesn't work, then it may be best to test a different angle altogether. It could just be the fact that, hey, this angle just doesn't work for whatever reason, for a product, for an audience, for a market, whatever, okay? So that is the process and the breakdown. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment below if you have any questions or if there's anything else that you'd like me to go deeper on. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.